equation. A quadratic equation is now any. So we're on quadratic equation. We now know that quadratic equation is now any equation of this form. So what do you notice? Our y is 0 here. So this is now a quadratic equation where the second order polynomial, where a, b, and c are constants. So they are constants as numbers now. So we now have some method because the next one is now the method of solving quadratic equation. But before then, generally from this, okay, let's look at forms the method of solving quadratic equation. So the first method we know we are seeing here is factorization method. So we have three methods. The first method is factorization method. Second one is quadratic formula. That's completing the square, because completing the square is just a proof of quadratic formula. So I see it as that the same. So finally, the graphical method. This one is now plotting of graph. So we now take it one by one. So the first one is factorization method. Factorization, we use factorization method because it's not all of the quadratic equation can be solved using factorization method. So you'll be wondering, when do you normally use factorization method? We use factorization method when, so I'm saying that if you are given ax squared plus bx plus equals to 0, we can solve using factorization method. Factorization method. If b squared minus 4ac is a perfect square, so if b squared, that's the coefficient of x, minus the square of that, minus 4 times the product of the coefficient of x squared and c, if it's a perfect square, we know that we can solve it using factorization method. So let's just check example. If you are now given, example, they now ask you which of the following could be solved using factorization method. So assuming you are given the first one, maybe the first one, you are given 3x squared plus 8x plus 1 equal to 0. The second one, if you are given x squared plus 5x plus 6 equal to 0. Why the last one? If you are now given, if you are given half 1 over 2x squared plus 8x minus 3 equal to 0. So let's now know which of the three of them, okay, the last one, which is none. So we are given the options, so, and we are now asked which of them can be solved using factorization method of. So our target will be on A, B, and C. So once we know A, B, and C, we can easily know whether it could be solved using the method. So for A now, our A is 3. So B squared, 8 squared minus 4 times 3 times 1. And looking at this 8 squared is 64. So 64 minus 12, because 4 times 3 is 12, is 52. and 52 is not a perfect square, so not possible. So it's off. The second one, or maybe let's solve the third one first. So the third one, if you are the same 8 squared minus 4 times half times minus 3. So this is 64. This is 22. So plus 6 is 70. That's 226. So 70 is not possible. So let's check the last. That's the B part, which is 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times 6. So this is 25 minus 24, which is 1, and 1 is 1 squared. 1 is a perfect square. So the answer is B. So our answer is B. So whenever you ask if a quadratic equation could be solved using factorization method, don't try solving it by that factorization method. You know, just make sure that b squared minus 4ac is a perfect square. So that's a very nice formula. So now, if it's factorizable now, that if we can still if we can solve using factorization method, how do you solve? So let's now solve that the option B. So assuming you're asked to solve x squared plus 5x plus 6 equal to 0. So assuming, okay, using factorization method. Using factorization method. So solve using the method, which is factorization method. So the target, we just focus on the value here with its coefficient, which is x squared, and the constants. So we'll find the product. So I'm saying if you do x squared times the product, the constant, which is now 6x squared. So we now factor 6x squared. You now find two factors of this 6x squared such that the sum will result to the middle term. So the target, multiply whatever that is here with the constant term. You now find, because it will have a lot of terms, among those terms you now it will have a lot of factors. Among those factors, we now select only two. It's only two that will satisfy, that if you add together, it will satisfy the middle term. So I'm saying, as you are seeing, 5x is 2x and 3x. So if you add 2s plus 2s and plus 3s, it gives us 5x. So we must find two factors such that the product will still result to 6x squared, and their sum will result to the middle term. So that's the thing. So I'm saying that 6x could be written as what? 2x times 3x. So I will now replace my 5x with 2x and 3x. So nothing has there is no problem here. It's just a wall, because our target is to factor by grouping. You know, it's a trinomial. So we need to make it to have 4 terms such that we now group 2 by grouping. So we'll factor by grouping. That's the idea. We can't just factor this. The only way we can do it is to split the middle term into 2. We now group. So we'll solve using factorization. That's factor by grouping. So we now group it to 2. So the first 2 and the last 2. So between this x squared and 2s, which factor? What is common? What is the common term here? We notice that it's x. And what will be remaining inside is x and 2. Again, to make our solution fast, because our idea is to factor. So whatever that is here, whatever you've gotten here, just repeat it, which is x plus 2. Finally, remember, we have to factor this also by grouping. To neutralize the effect, that's going back to original, we need to multiply by plus 3. Check it. Plus 3 times x plus 2 is 3x plus 6. So I always do it this way, so to make our solution fast. Whatever that is here, duplicate it here, readjust to get back to the original. So if you expand this bracket, you still get back to the original. because our main aim is to factor, and we are doing we'll factor 2 times. We've done the first factorization, but by grouping. The final one is now we'll factor these 2. We now have 2 terms here, this and this. So between x times x plus 2, 3 times x plus 2, which one has common? What was the common term here? We notice is x plus 2. So what is left here is x, and what is left here is 3. So that's it. So again, if you expand this, you get back to this. If you expand this, you get back to the original. So finally, this is we now have product of 2 terms, and for a product to be 0, for 2 numbers to multiply or 2 items to multiply, the answer is 0. We know one thing for sure, that one of the numbers must be 0, or one of the items must be 0. So, but the problem, we don't know which one is either this first term here or this second one here. So I'm saying that either for this to be 0, for the product of the 2 to be 0, either this first one is 0 or the second term, which is x plus 3 equal to 0. So making x the subject of formula -2 and -3. So these are the only factor that number that if you substitute to this equation, the answer is 0. Among all the numbers in this world, it's only these 2 that will satisfy this. So it's very, very important. But there is a little problem by doing this method. It's also factorization. There is a faster way we can solve this, because we notice that if the number here is very large and the one here is very large, there is a problem. Yes, there is a problem, because to solve this, especially in OBJ, takes time. So I'm now trying to make a faster way to solve this. That you notice that if this is a large number, maybe 10x squared or 100x squared, and this is also a large number, the product of the 2 will result to a higher number. Again, you know, the higher a number, the larger a number, the more factor it will have. So what you have to do is now use this method, which is the best. So see the fact, it's all trial and error. So we now use this trial and error method. So it's a very, very efficient. Look at this. I will focus on this first one, which is x squared. So 2 terms that will multiply to give me x squared could be x plus x or minus x plus times minus x. Again, 2 terms that will multiply, we now focus on this middle one, the last one, which is 6. 2 terms that will multiply to give me 6 could be 1 and 6, 2 and 3. But within you, we don't know which one will give me this. So I will prefer using plus 2 and plus 3, since I have positive here, because I'm about to cross multiply. I'm about to cross. This term will multiply this. Why this will multiply this? I'm saying x multiplies 3, it gives us 3x, and x multiplies to gives us 2x, and finally the answer is 5x, which is what we are to get, which is 5x. Since it's 5x, without wasting time, the factored number is this and this. So I'm saying it's now s plus 2 and x plus 3. So you just equate each to 0. Find the value of x. This method is very, 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 very efficient, especially if the numbers are very large. Example now, if you are now asked to, if you are asked to solve minus 42x squared plus 74x minus 24 equal to 0. If you are asked to solve this, okay, assuming you are asked to solve this, so if you are asked to solve this, if you notice these numbers are very large. So but before then, we notice something. It seems they have common factors. So if I can reduce this more by dividing each by 2. So dividing each of the terms by 2. So 2 in that is minus 21x squared. 2 divide, that's 37x, and finally minus 12 equal to 0. 0 over 2 is also 0. So at least reducing this to make us solve it easier. Again, if you try to multiply this, it will turn out to be a very large number. Minus 21x squared times minus 12. It will be very, very large. So that's why I prefer using that method I told you. We found two terms that will do that. So we now check the first two terms that will multiply to give me minus 21 is 3 and 7. So 1 should be negative. So if I do 7x, why this should be minus 3x. Okay. So the two terms that will multiply to give me minus 21x squared is 7x and minus 3x. Again, two terms that will multiply to give me, two numbers that will multiply to give me minus 12 could be minus 3 and 4, or 4, minus 4 or and 3. So what I prefer, since I have a positive number here, so the best way I choose it, I prefer minus 3 to have the negative and plus 4 such that, because I'm going to cross multiply. If I do minus 3 times minus 3x is 9x, and 7x times 4 is 28. So adding the 28x, adding the 2 will give us 37x. So that's what I'm saying. So it's a faster method. So I'm saying that we've not splitted this. Yes, so the factor, we have factored this already. Or you can still continue, but this guy makes us to know how to split the middle term. So this always guides us to split the middle term. So I'm saying that you can continue, but from there we can still solve from here. 42 product to be 0, each of them. We don't know which one. So either the first one is 0 or the second one is 0. So this gives us a faster method. But let's just finish this one up. So I'm saying that instead of writing 37 now, I'll write 9x and 28x. The sum gives us 37. So we now factor by grouping. So we'll factor the first two and the last two. So 9 and this, I think 3x. So what is here? Here is minus 7x. And finally, what is here is minus 3. Yes, because it should be negatives. Okay, this is plus. It should be plus 3. Sorry. Go back, check back. 3x times minus 7x is minus 21x. 3x times 3 is 9x. I told you, you repeat whatever that is here, which is minus 7x plus 3, and neutralize the effect. So for this to be negative, positive should be minus 4, the product of minus 4. So if you do minus 4 times minus 7x gives us 28x. Minus 4 times plus 3 gives us minus 12. So we're on the right track. So next thing is now to factor. The factor, what is common in the 2 is minus 7x plus 3. Why this is 3x minus 4 equal to 0. So the product of two numbers to be 0, I told you, is either the first one. So either minus 7x plus 3 is 0, or 3x minus 4 is 0. So our answer is 3 over 7, or x, which is 4 over 3. So these are the two answers, either this or this. It has only two values now. If you substitute it in the original equation, the answer is 0. Coming back, some might be wondering, how come here you still have the same, get the same answer? Check it from this, which implies that making x the subject of formula is 3 over 7. Here, making x the subject of formula is also 4 over 3. So we are correct. Though it seems they don't have the same factor. It depends, but the result must be the same. So